Hi, Paul from Power Wash Store here. We're going to go through and show you the Precision Soft Wash Ultimate Skid that Colin from Precision Soft Wash and Pressure Washing has had made by us here today. This skid basically has everything on it you can get. We're going to start right here. We start out with our garden hose reel. On our garden hose reel we have a feed line that will feed the pure water system. On the other side here we have a selector valve that will allow you to feed between the tank and the proportioner, and we'll go over the running of these valves. He has his direct spray applicator for his Precision Power Bright cleaning detergent, which is his general all-purpose cleaning agent. We have our second hose reel here. This is for the booster pump skid, which will allow him to work with the proportioner for cleaning siding and roofs and other things. And we have our high pressure hose reel. On the back here, we have a 5.5 gallon a minute at 3,500 PSI Hydrotech pressure washer with the Honda GX30 engine. We have a water dragon hot water, custom hot water heater that works off an 11 gallon diesel tank here. We have a directional light here, which will show you how it works. Up inside here, we have a 16 gallon storage tank. This will be for his Precision roof wash additive that he will use for his detergent or surfactant. We have our water tank. We have a bulk storage tank, which is for the Precision Power Bright cleaning detergent. He also has this set up for an Udor system if he wants to put an Udor on here for bigger jobs, that he can also use this as a general mix tank. And then in the back there we have our bleach tank. We have a garden hose or a Titan reel here. This is a 6-inch reel that's used for his pure water system. We have our proportioner. We have the pure water system outlets. So we have a deionized water outlet, RO only outlet, and this is the dump valve for the RO. So the wastewater from the RO process is there. We have a built-in transfer pump. If you look inside here, you can see we have a transfer pump here. We have, which is powered off this switch here. We have our lights, which work for the spotlights on the other side. We have our directional assist. We have his 1.8 or 2.1 gallon a minute pump for applying his Power Bright cleaning detergent, which works off the one bulk tank. We have the selector valve that allows you to choose between the proportioner or force fed from the garden hose reel with the booster pump, our on-off switch for the booster pump. We have our selector valve here that allows us to choose, and this works to the SH valve on the proportioner that allows you to choose between the SH or water, so we can use that for flushing. And then we have our integrated pure water system. We have our TDS meter, which you can see will tell you what your TDS is with the water coming out of the RO. It's 5 parts per million, and with the DI it's 0 parts per million. We'll go over that in a little bit. Our booster pump to help force feed the system to allow it to work better. We have our set of jumper hoses here that we can use for both chemical transfer, or we have this set up that will allow you to actually use the transfer pump as a backup for the booster pump if you ever get on a job site where you don't have power and you just want to use a 12-volt system. We call that the double agent kit. We have a drop tube here for the transfer pump. On the top here, you'll see these two cases. Underneath these cases, we have the wall mount RHG pure water system, where we have a carbon filter, 2 RO filters, and a DI cartridge. And all that's been plumbed and integrated into the system here, so everything's into the tank. So if we want to close this up, get a nice clean look as far as the skid itself goes. This will all fit in the back of a long bed pickup. Alright, so we're going to start over here. We're going to talk about the pressure washer very first thing. We have our pressure washer. Unloader is here. If you need to service the pump, you can actually get at it here, or remove this battery box to get better access to it. You can still get at the oil. Your on-off switch is here. We have a hot box on here, which does have an adjustable thermostat, which when you go all the way back to the left, it's off. When you go all the way to the right, it's on. It's not hooked up right now, but that's wired into the battery. This is set up with a dual battery system. There's one battery on the pressure washer itself off to the side here, and we added a second larger battery on the middle here that will allow you to be able to run the burner, run the reels, run the 12-volt pump and all that, and still be able to keep up with the demand that's required. There is a high capacity charging system in the pressure washer. We come out of the pressure washer into our burner, out of our burner, and over to our hose reel. If for some reason you ever wanted to bypass your burner, you could actually disconnect the burner right there from the pressure washer, disconnect it here, and actually just connect those together and just have cold water only. So it's real simple to change that out if for some reason you ever wanted to bypass your burner or not use your burner, or just to reduce restrictions if you want to use cold water only. On the thing, we have our high pressure reel here with 200 feet of the Dragon Tail high pressure hose on here. Let's go back over to, we'll talk about the little chemical applicator pump right here. He has this on a reel. We ran some 3/8 hose with that 2.1 gallon minute pump. All we have to do to activate that is we come over here to our pump, and right on the top of the pump, if you can kind of see up in there, there's a little switch right on the top. Just reach up in here, turn that on. It will be drawing from that one tank. We can come back over here, pull our hose out, and apply our chemical to the surface. So Colin likes to use this for applying his Power Bright chemical when he has large areas. Concrete is a little windy today, so you can do a different mist. It comes with a 4-nozzle holder, so you can choose whatever nozzle you want for distance or whatever. And that is just for applying the Power Bright chemical. Those reels aren't currently hooked up. So this is for Power Bright only. It does have a demand pressure switch, so when you let off the trigger, it'll turn on and off based on the demand of the switch. Right now it's going to shut off. I'm just going to leave that on for a minute. Let's talk about the hose reel. So right now what we're doing is we're filling up the tank. We have the hose, the valve pointed straight back, which is making the water come out from the garden hose directly to the tank. Now I want to prime my booster pump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this valve and I'm going to turn it to the side here, and what it's going to do is send the water down this line, which goes directly to the booster pump. So I've got about half a tank of water right now, as you can see. So I got plenty of water to be able to work, and I want to use this to prime my booster pump. To prime the booster pump and prime all the tanks properly to get all the air out, I'm going to show you that process next. So we're still hooked up to our water, we're still feeding it, and we're going to force feed the booster pump, which is going to give us our biggest pressure boost right now when we force feed. So I'm going to pull a little bit of hose out here. I'm going to come around to the other side of the truck. We're going to take our extension cord.
What gauge cord?
I would recommend using a minimum of a 12 gauge cord. A 10 gauge cord would be better. Nothing more than 50 feet would be ideal. Nothing more than 100 feet. If you go 100 feet or more, you definitely want to use a 10 gauge cord. The amount of amp draw that's required will help make the motor last a lot longer. Now, when you unplug this, it has a tendency to automatically trip the ground fault. So we're going to plug this in. I'm going to reset the ground fault, which is this button right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just put this on the cover here. So, okay, we have there's a little bit of extra cord here. We have our on-off, which you can hear just turn on there. That's our on-off switch for it. So right now, the way this is set up is we're coming in with our water and force feeding the booster pump. So you'll see if I just squeeze this trigger right now, it's going to spray. That's what's coming out from the garden hose. That's just garden hose pressure right now. So you can see there's a little bit of suds in there. That could be either from what's on the ground or from when we were testing it before to make sure everything works. So that's just garden hose pressure. It's just force feeding right through. If I turn it on right now, what that's going to do, see how much more pressure is there and how much it boosted the pressure? That's boosted the pressure, and that's just garden hose. So what it does is it takes your inlet garden hose pressure and boosts it by about 125 psi. So what we're going to do is we're going to force feed this pump. We're going to force feed water through, and we're going to get all the air out of the system. And you can see we've been running it here for a minute, so we've gotten the air out of the system. going to come over to the proportioner here. One of the things you need to note is that you need to make sure that this connector right here that goes to the proportioner, that these clamps are down tight so that it's on there tight so you don't get air into the system. Okay, so now we're going to come over to the proportioner. Now we have to prime the proportioner. We need to get all the air out of the system for this to work properly. So this is a pretty simple process. What we're going to do is we're going to prime one valve at a time. I'm just going to start with the water, so I'm going to turn the water all the way on. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to turn my pump on, and I'm going to squeeze the trigger. Then I'm going to take this valve here that goes, right now it's feeding from the garden hose. I'm going to turn it to the proportioner. What that will do is draw through the proportioner. And if you look at these lines that are in here, one's hanging down here right now, you'll see a couple of different lines. What you'll see is you might see a pocket of air come through, and what we're trying to do is get all the air out. Now this one's already been primed, so you might not see that. We did run it out, but let's see what happens here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with it force feeding with the garden hose, which you can see. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to make sure the air's out of the system, and then I'm going to take this valve right here, and I'm going to turn it to the proportioner. And what you'll see is the pressure drop. And I'm going to look and make sure that all the air works its way out of the line here. Okay? So I've watched the air's work its way out of the line. So you can see the pressure slowly starting to drop. Excuse me. I'm going to turn it back to the booster pump, back to the garden hose, and I'm going to force the rest of the air out. Now that I've got the air out of the water, I'm going to close the water up. I'm going to open the detergent up, and I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to spray. Right now we're working with the booster pump. This is directly from the water. I'm going to turn this valve right here. Again, we're going to turn this valve right here back to the proportioner, and then we're going to work the air out of the chemical line. So I'm going to watch the chemical line. You see the pocket of air going through? So what I got to do is I got to get the air out of that line. And probably there's going to be air in there right now because we don't have anything in that tank. So what I'm going to actually do right now is go put a little bit of chemical or a little bit of water in that tank. So we're going to, right now I'm just adding a little bit of water in here, right into the chemical tank. And I want to make sure that if you look, you want to make sure the level is over the top of the filter here. If you get air into the system, you're going to have to reprime it. Alright, so we got enough in there right now that we can prime this. So right now I'm on coming from the reel, so I got my full pressure. Now if you watch this little line here again, when I turn it on, you're going to see when I turn it to proportioner, you're going to see the air pocket go through. So I'm going to turn it to proportioner. You see it sucking the air through, and now it's got all the chemical. There we go. We're getting all the air out of the line. So you see that all the air's out. Now if you look, what's happening is I have very little pressure because I'm trying to suck everything from that line through, and you see I have no pressure. So we know that's primed all the way. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to turn it to the garden hose feed so I can get the air out of the system. And if you watch this, you'll see it sputter in a second or two here. Now this is just garden hose feeding it, but that air that came into the system from the chemical line has got to work its way out. So if I watch this for a second or two, this is 250 feet of hose, so it might take a little bit. Okay, it's going to sputter a little bit here. So we're going to keep moving on. So now I'm going to do the same thing with my SH line. I'm going to turn my detergent off. I'm going to turn my SH valve all the way open. I'm going to come back over here. Now this is a selector for the SH valve. So we have a choice between water and our SH tank. So what I have to do is I have to prime each one of those lines with the proportioner. Right now it's set on water. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm being force fed through the garden hose. I'm going to turn my main valve back to the proportioner. I'm going to watch the line to the water line, which is right back here. For the SH line, I'm going to watch that for air. So there's no air coming out, so that one's actually primed already. I'm going to switch it to my SH tank. And again, I'm going to watch for air. Now what I might have to do if I get an air pocket in there is I'm going to have to turn this valve back to the garden hose to force the air out, and then I'm going to turn it back to the